Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video you are going to learn how to use the dev services feature introduced in Quarkus version 2. Let's imagine creating a Quarkus microservice to manage the users. This microservice exposes the get, post, put and delete REST endpoint to the user. During the implementation and testing phase, we can run the project in development mode using the command mvn quarkus dev. In doing so, we need to install in our local machine the database to connect to it. It can be a Postgresql database or MySQL database. If we don't want to install it, we have to use Docker and manually find the image, pull the image and run the container. Quarkus version 2 allows us to avoid all these manual steps. How? Using the new feature called Dev Services. Quarkus supports the automatic provisioning of unconfigured services in development and test mode. Let's see how this works. We have our microservice that needs a database. Quarkus pulls the Docker image and run the container for us depending on which database we need to use. Can be a Postgresql or MySQL database or something else. We don't need to worry anymore to configure it on our own. Remember that this is possible only in development and test mode. Now let's start and follow my steps to use the dev services. I already created a simple Quarkus project where I decided to use Hibernate ORM, REST-easy, REST-easy JSONB, JUnit 5 and Rest Assured as dependencies. I decided to use Quarkus version 2.8.2 with Java 17. It's a simple Quarkus project with a user entity with a first name, last name and birth date. Inside the user resource, I created the getAll REST endpoint, create, update, and delete by ID REST endpoints. It's a very simple project. Inside the test package, it presents the user resource test class, where first there is the test case to create a new user, and then the test case to get all the users. The project is not ready to use because we need to define the database. We are going to use Postgresql as database. So the first thing to do is to add the dependency inside the project. Let's add a new dependency, Quarkus Jdbc Postgres. Good. Let's import this dependency inside the project. Now go inside the application property file and add the dbKind configuration property equal to Postgres. Also, we can define the database generation. In this case, we are going to use drop and create. Let's open the terminal and run the project in development mode, typing maven quarkus dev. We can see in the console there are a lot of warnings. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can take a closer look. Attempting to start live reload endpoints to recover from previous Quarkus startup failure, or could not find a valid Docker environment. And the last one, please configure the data source URL or ensure the Docker daemon is up and running. We don't have any kind of Postgres database installed in our machine. What can we do instead of installing the Postgres database or even pulling ourselves the Postgres Docker image, run it with all configuration? We can use the dev services feature introduced from Quarkus version 2. We can use it only for development mode and for testing. First, run Docker on our local machine. Done. I can show you that I don't have any Docker images and even containers running. Let's stop the server and run again the project in development mode. We can see here that there is a lot of stuff going on. It's Quarkus that is pulling the Docker Postgres images for us and run also the container to use with our project. This is the beauty of the dev services feature. It can be done just specifying the DB kind inside application properties file. Very good. In development mode and for testing, we can be focused on our code instead of pulling and running or installing different databases. Inside the terminal, if we type again docker ps and docker images, we can see two different images, the image of Postgres and the image of Testcontainers, because dev services is using the test container to give us the Docker container. If we type docker ps, we can even see the containers Postgres and test container up and running. So now we can test our project. We can open Postman and try all the endpoints. The get all, the create, receiving 201 as status code. Let's try it again. Get all. So the first user has been created. Now try the put. We need to define the ID and we are going to change just the last name. We are going to click on send and the update has been completed. Let me put the right last name. Very good. And then the delete by ID. We need to specify the ID. Perfect. Of course, we can even define the data source, username and password, like for example username password. Let's stop our project and run it again in development mode. And here we can see that our project is working fine without any problems. We already implemented the user resource test. So let's run all the test cases. Also during the test phase, we can see the dev services in action. Provide us the Docker database image needed to run our test case. We avoid using H2 database for testing phase with the dev services. If we want to change the database from Postgresql to MySQL, for example, we just need to change the DB kind from Postgresql to MySQL, then open the pom.xml file, remove the Postgresql dependency and add the Quarkus Jdbc MySQL dependency. Now let's stop the project and run it again in development mode. As we can see the dev services in action, pulling for us a MySQL Docker image. In this case, with MySQL, we need to wait a little bit more, but in the end, everything is working. We can type Docker images and see the MySQL Docker image and with Docker PS, the related container. Now we are ready to try our project with MySQL database. So let's go back to Postman and run all the endpoints. The get all is working. The create is working. The update is working, and last but not least, the delete is working as well. Perfect. Nothing has changed. We replaced the database from Postgresql to MySQL without changing the code only specifying the DB kind and without installing in our local machine MySQL. We can find all the information about the dev services feature inside the Quarkus official website, where we have also the possibility to disable the dev services. The dev services feature is not working only with database, but also with Kafka, Keycloak, MongoDB, etc. This is a very powerful feature introduced in Quarkus version 2. So let's test, for example, how to disable the dev services only for databases. Inside the documentation, we can find the option Quarkus Data Source Dev Services Enabled. Let's put inside the application properties this Quarkus Data Source Dev Services Enabled equal false. Let's run the project again in development mode. Here we can see the server is running, but there is no configuration related to the data source. If you are going to use our endpoints, they will fail. Let's put back the dev services and run again the project. Here is the magic. We have our database ready. We can even disable all dev services like databases, Kafka, Keycloak, and put the Quarkus dev services enabled equal false. In this case, we see the same behavior. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel to be always updated about new videos that I will upload. And see you in the next one. Bye.